everyone. Welcome back to the MHA Quarantine Panel Series. I'm Cole Arnold. This is Mary Kate Cole. And
Hi.
today we are going to be talking about anxiety. So we got a few questions for you. First off, what is an anxiety disorder and what are your personal experiences with anxiety?
So there are a lot of different definitions of anxiety disorder and a lot of defining factors that go into what disorder you have. But basically, it means that anxiety of something or just generalized anxiety is keeping you away from your daily activities. So if you're having panic attacks, anxiety throughout the day, and that's keeping you from your normal, average hobbies and daily tasks, then it would be conceptualized as a disorder. Is that what you would say too?
Yeah, I think it's important to point out that everyone has anxiety. It's not exactly bad. If I didn't have anxiety, I wouldn't study for my tests because I wouldn't be worried about passing them. But it is when it gets in the way of your daily functioning, keeps you from living your full life, that you can classify it as a disorder. And like I said, there's lots of different types of anxiety disorders. There's generalized anxiety disorders, free floating, just have anxiety about everything. Personally, I struggle with social anxiety disorder. So it's interacting with people gives me a lot of anxiety. So good thing I'm just on a YouTube video and video conferencing every day. It's pretty fun, but I've come a long way. Phobias are another anxiety disorder, a specific fear of any objects. And the word fear, I think, is very important. Anxiety itself is your brain telling you that there's a threat to your life, whether it's rational or not. Your brain and your body perceive it as a threat to your life, and it's scary, and you're just kind of overwhelmed with fear. So, what are your personal experiences with anxiety?
So when I was 15, I was diagnosed with a generalized anxiety disorder. This means that your anxiety can come and go whenever it wants, that panic attacks can be triggered or not triggered, and there's no real root to your anxiety half the time. And so it can be kind of hard to cope with it because you don't know what's causing it.
Absolutely. You mentioned panic attacks, and we did a whole video on panic, but can you kind of tell us what kind of looks like when you're experiencing a panic attack?
So panic attacks can look like different things to different people. I remember when I was in health class before I started having panic attacks, and they described them as like a heart attack when your heart beats really fast out of your chest and you feel like you're having a heart attack. And so when I started having panic attacks, I didn't define them as panic attacks because it felt different for me. For me, it was a nausea and a body tremor and heat, and I guess this feeling of I need to escape whatever I'm doing. And I can be completely quiet. I can pretend like everything's fine. Sometimes I'll cry, but most of the time it isn't a large, dramatic episode. It's more of just like like a tap, and I'm just kind of like waiting for it to pass.
Yeah. Question two, how's your anxiety been during this pandemic? It's a lot of change, a lot of adjusting. How's your anxiety taking it, Mary Kate?
So surprisingly, I've been okay with my anxiety. I haven't had a panic attack at all during the pandemic. However, I've noticed more physical issues, like I've been breaking out. I'm almost 24, way past puberty. My face is awful right now, so I'm breaking out. I'm losing weight. My appetite's changing. I'm having some stomach issues here and there. Like I just feel constantly fatigued. Like I don't want to do anything. I'm stressed when I think about the future, what's going to happen once everything starts to open up again. Just thinking about all of that just bothers me. So I don't necessarily feel the regular anxieties that I would my normal daily activities, but I am definitely stressed, if I can admit it or not.
Yeah.
What about you?
So it's been an adjustment. We talked a couple weeks ago on our introvert extrovert panel about how we were kind of taking the first little exposure to working from home a little differently. I was very mellow back then. Over time, I've started to realize that my anxiety is kind of creeping up on me, specifically with the social anxiety. I think it's kind of weird to think about how Zoom calls are definitely a form of social interaction, and I'm on those a lot. Um, I had to do a Facebook Live, which I've never done before, a very social kind of event, and I felt my anxiety creep up. I started to get overwhelmed. It's been an adjustment. I'm starting to realize that the things that I did when I was working in offices to kind of maintain my self-care, make sure I didn't overwhelm myself with my anxiety and with socializing, I haven't been doing since I've been home. And it's definitely taken a toll. So my anxiety has been a little higher, still generally doing okay. But there are different considerations that I kind of didn't think of that are kind of creeping up into my life. Okay, so we talked about what anxiety is, how we're kind of dealing with it right now, but coping is very important. So our third question is, how can you or how do you cope with anxiety?
I can tell you how you should cope. Have I been coping? No, because every time, so one of the things, to cope is to go outside and take a walk, but that stresses me out. Okay. This is why. First off, you have to avoid people because everyone's walking and you have to avoid them because you're looking at them like they are just this specimen of possible disease. So you have to run and flee from them. So your fight or flight response is just kicking in. Okay. So you first have to like avoid them like an obstacle. And then your allergies, especially in Dallas, Texas, are bad. So then after you get home, you start coughing, sneezing, and you think to yourself, is this it for me? Has it happened? Is this one walk outside? Did this do this to me? And then you realize it's just allergies. But then, going outside again, you think, should I really go outside or should I just stay inside and wallow? But then when you stay inside and wallow, you're not exercising, you're not getting that energy. And then you just fall into the zone of sloth, I call it. Call it the sloth life, right? So, sorry, that was just, me personally talking about my struggles. But yeah, you should go on walks.
That's a good one. Don't be a sloth.
And then don't be a sloth. You should also journal. I did my first journal entry this entire quarantine, which I should be journaling a lot more. But that is very able to get out my emotions and what I'm feeling and how the quarantine's affecting different friendships or relationships. That's been huge. Also, taking time off media, which has been so hard for me because I will take any minute I can to talk to a human being because I'm extroverted. I need it. But turning off your cell phone an hour before bed and not touching it, wow, it changes the game completely. And I wish I did it more. I don't. But that's things to, help with your anxiety, exercise routine, getting up, making your bed, brushing your hair. Also bad at doing that. But yeah, that's things that can help. For me, the biggest thing for me is just, like I said, turning off my phone, reading books, listening to music, trying to get out of my head as much as possible.
Yeah, doing the things that you enjoy and that kind of bring you back down. Sounds like it's a really important part of your coping. With me personally, I think we should definitely address that there are good ways to cope and there are also bad ways to cope. Coping isn't always good. Um,
Yeah.
so I have personal experiences with bad coping. I would use substances because I was so high and my brain was just going everywhere. I would use anything that was a quick fix to bring myself back down, and it's not a good way to cope. So be careful, watch yourself, especially during this time with anxiety kind of all over the place, and we're kind of stuck in. Not a lot of ways to get out and be active to kind of help us out. Be careful and know your unhealthy coping, and recognize when you're falling into that. It might be a sign that your mental health isn't in a good place. But on the good end of coping, I really like using grounding techniques. So grounding, again, like you're having anxiety, your head's all over the place, shooting thoughts everywhere, just elevated state. Grounding is a way to kind of bring ourselves back down, bring our focus back inside of ourselves. It's a really important skill. It takes time to really practice and implement, but it's pretty useful. My go-to, and Mary Kate sees it at the office, is to check my pulse. So when I'm having anxiety, I'll bring my hand up, I'll feel my pulse, I'll bring all my thoughts into focusing on the pulse, and anytime it starts to slow down, I'll be like, okay, that's good, I'm getting there. I recognize where I'm at, and I'm bringing myself back down. Another technique that I showed Mary Kate was the 3-2-1 rule. So find a random object around you. I'm going to look at it. I'm going to say 3 things about it that I see. So it's green. It's got a line going around it in the middle, you can see. And it has a little advertisement written on it in black ink that's kind of fading. 2 things that I feel about it. It's pretty squishy. It's not as squishy as a pillow, but it's more squishy than an apple. The line going around it's pretty rough, but it's not even. There are some parts that are rougher than others. And then one thing that you either smell or, depending on the object, taste. So it smells like styrofoam. It's pretty crisp. Basically, the goal is to bring all your attention to this object in front of you. Instead of having all your thoughts out here, you focus it, kind of bring it back down. So that's a technique that I use. But there's lots of different ways to cope. Mary Kate mentioned a lot of things that she enjoys. Those are good. Doing things you enjoy increase your mood. You had something to say?
So actually, I was at our conference a couple months ago, and I had a panic attack, which is totally normal for me with events that I'm leading. Always going to get a panic attack. It's fine. But I ended up having a lot of therapists around because it was a mental health conference.
Mm-hmm.
Great. And I went through grounding with one of our good friends and therapists. And she had told me something really interesting that I carry on today. And she said, anxiety is like waves. Can you control the waves? No. But what you can do is you can ground yourself on a surfboard and wait for the waves to pass.
Yeah.
And so that's how grounding works. And I really loved that expression and realizing, hey, it's okay to feel all these things. It's okay to be anxious, but you have to ground yourself and get through it, or the waves are going to keep crashing you down.
Important thing with that concept is that it's going to pass. Like, this isn't going to last forever. I'm experiencing it now, but it will calm down. It will go away, and I'll be back to myself soon. So really important concept. I like that. Okay, well, those are all of our questions. Feel free to leave a comment with more. We'll try to get back as much as we can. Actually, we will get back to all of them. Be sure to subscribe. We have new videos coming out every week. So keep updated, stay with us, and thank you for listening. Good luck with this pandemic. You are loved, and yeah, good luck. Bye.
Bye.